Well, folks, with the August 14th primary right around the corner, I have a very important message for gun owners in Minnesota House District 31B. Guys, that's the Ham Lake, East Bethel, Columbus area, just north of the cities. Guys, this message is for you. This is very important. Please stick with us until the end. Guys, I'm Ben Dorr. I'm the political director for Minnesota Gun Rights. I'm coming at you from our headquarters here in Northfield, just south of the cities. And I'm here with some results from our candidate survey program. One of our jobs, our chief jobs as a gun rights organization, is to survey everybody running for office in the 2018 elections. That's everybody in the House this year. And so this year you have two folks running in the Republican primary on August 14th. You have Representative Bahr running, and you have former Representative Tom Hackbarth. And so the question is, where do they stand on gun rights issues? We often hear politicians, you've heard it, I've heard it, we've all heard it, politicians make big promises. And the question is, what do they actually do when they make it to St. Paul? So right off the bat, I just want to give you the results from our survey program. Right off the top, Tom Hackbarth. Tom Hackbarth has risen up and filled out his Minnesota Gun Rights Candidate Survey 100% pro-gun. More than that, Tom filled out the Minnesota Gun Rights Leadership Pledge as well. Very good of Tom to take a principled, specific stance on the Second Amendment. Oftentimes, you know, we hear just verbal promises, right? Kind of like a, hey, I support the 2A, you know, I grew up shooting shotguns. That type of thing is usually what you hear from candidates who want the vote from gun owners. And it's very rare for somebody to go on record, put their name on paper and say, I'm going to fight on behalf of gun owners and on behalf of the Second Amendment. Tom Hackbarth has promised in spades to be a fighter on behalf of gun owners. Now, on the flip side, Bahr has absolutely refused to fill out his Minnesota Gun Rights Candidate Survey. Now, we've been told by many, many candidates that they are being told by anti-gunners in the legislature, specifically Speaker of the House Kurt Doudt. He's telling folks, don't fill out the Minnesota Gun Rights Candidate Survey. Don't go on record and tell gun owners where you stand, because if you stab gun owners in the back, Minnesota Gun Rights is going to make sure gun owners in those districts know what their representatives did in their time in office. And so clearly Representative Bahr has caved to the pressure in St. Paul and has refused to fill out his Minnesota Gun Rights Candidate Survey. But I'll tell you, our organization, as gun owners well know, has a long history with both Bahr and Tom Hackbarth. Tom, once upon a time in an old life, signed his name rather to a letter attacking our organization. He didn't think that we were fighting for gun owners. He had been duped by leadership, didn't do some research, and he was not a proponent of the Second Amendment very well when he was in office, and attacked our organization on paper. But the newly minted Tom Hackbarth has realized the error of his ways, realized the mistakes he's made, and knows that if he's to go back to St. Paul, he needs to fight on behalf of gun owners. That's why, like I said, the newly minted, reborn, if you will, Tom Hackbarth has filled out his survey 100% pro-gun. We think that's fantastic, and we thought gun owners in his district need to know the results of this survey program. On the other hand, Bahr. Many of you know him. I've met with him dozens of times when he was in the legislature, before, after, and in between. And I'll tell you, there are some actions he took when in office that were just not becoming of a state legislator, not somebody who professes to be pro-gun. I think of just in 2017, Real ID. You guys remember the Dangerous ID Act that was being shoved through the House and the Senate? A tremendous gun control bill that opens up your data for all sorts of government interference. It would have your firearms records on there, your health records, the color of your eyes, your DNA, all of this data that the government and that these agencies have would be put into your ID so government agents can go through your most sensitive and personal data at will. That's what Dangerous ID would do, was part of the package, a dangerous gun control bill. Well, this bill came up in the Transportation Regional Governance Policy Committee back in 2017, of which Bahr sits on that committee. And again, he got some pressure from his friends, from his cohorts in St. Paul, perhaps from the speaker himself, and they told him, listen, you better not vote no on Real ID. You better vote yes, or you better take a walk. And let me tell you, when that bill came up for a vote in that committee, when Bahr could have voted to kill the Dangerous ID Act right there in his committee, he got up, he walked out of the room, he let the vote take place, the Dangerous ID passed out of that committee, he walked back in, and he sat down. Folks, when the pressure was on, when gun owners needed him most, Representative Bahr took a walk. He took a walk. Folks, gun owners deserve a far better defense of the Second Amendment than those who take a walk when the pressure mounts just a little bit. That's your job, is to fight on behalf of your voters, the folks in your district. That's your duty. Your duty is not to listen to leadership, but he caved. The pressure was simply too much. When Representative Bahr was running for office in 2016, he filled out our gun rights survey. He thought that at least he was going to go there and fight on behalf of the Second Amendment. Well, we asked him to introduce Stand Your Ground law, as he promised he would do. A real Stand Your Ground bill, because there's a lot of fake ones, there's a lot of weak ones out there. One was introduced a couple of years ago, but it's so watered down, it's basically unpassable as it comes to an adequate defense of gun rights. Well, we asked Representative Bahr, will you sponsor the bill that you promised that you would push? And again, Representative Bahr caved to the pressure from his friends, from his other folks in the legislature, from House leadership, and he absolutely refused to sponsor a real Stand Your Ground bill that Minnesotans deserve. Folks, I mean, I heard this many times from him. If you know Representative Bahr, his key phrase was always, I'm going to go to St. Paul and I'm going to piss in their Wheaties. Pardon the term there. He was going to go piss in their Wheaties if he made it to St. Paul. Well, unfortunately, it seems that the only Wheaties that Representative Bahr ended up pissing in was gun owners who he refused to step up for and sponsor a real Stand Your Ground bill. He walked out of the Dangerous ID committee hearing, allowing the bill to pass. It's just not good. It's very, it's not a good defense of the Second Amendment. Gun owners deserve more. And so we're asking you guys now, if you see Representative or former Representative Hackbarth campaigning out on the streets, thank him for his principled choice, his principled decision to put his name on paper, to fill out his Minnesota gun rights candidate survey and promise to be a new man in the legislature and fight on behalf of the Second Amendment. On the other hand, if you see Representative Bahr, tell him to man up. Tell him to, he's got to put on his boots and lace them up a little bit and fight on behalf of gun owners. Tell him not to cave all the time to the pressure in St. Paul, that gun owners need an adequate defense of their rights and their freedoms. And tell Cal that he needs to do that job and stop caving to the pressure. And then tell him to fill out his Minnesota gun rights candidate survey. Make sure he's telling gun owners in his district what he actually intends to do. But if he intends to cave to the pressure in St. Paul, we can see why he wouldn't want to fill out the survey the second time around, since he refused to sponsor Stand Your Ground law after filling out the survey last time. So guys, thank you very much for your time. Please share this video with your family, your friends, anybody who is pro-gun that you know, who lives in House District 31B. Make sure they know who's pro-gun and who's just pretending to be pro-gun. And when you go out on August 14th to the polls, be sure to vote pro-gun. Thank you very much.